I did not get a deal from any of the sharks. Mark Cuban and Robert Herjavec said we would, except that we're not your kind of investor. We don't know anything about the watch space, anything about consumer product goods. We're technology, we're software, we're, that type of stuff. So, but keep going because you're doing it right. So at the end of the day, even though I didn't get a deal, I think what was the best part of that whole experience was how I grew the company after that point, because I realized, oh my gosh, I cannot keep on going down the aviation road because it's too small of a market. I need to expand to all these other industries that women are also a minority in, and they're also settling for other products that weren't designed or built for them.
Welcome to Think Business with Tyler, sharing our methods and strategies for success. Join in on our conversations with business owners as we highlight their triumphs and detail how they overcame the challenges they faced while continuing to grow and scale their business. It's time to think life, think success, and think business with your host, Tyler Martin.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Think Business with Tyler. In today's episode, we're chatting with the phenomenal Abingdon Mullin, a pilot turned entrepreneur whose passion for the skies led to creating a groundbreaking line of watches. She soared from career lunches in high school to making a mark on Shark Tank and Alibaba. Join us as we dive into her inspiring journey, the art of delegation, and the power of networking. Fasten your seatbelts. This is one conversation you won't want to miss.
Hey, Abingdon, welcome to the Think Business with Tyler podcast show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. I'm so excited to have you. I'd love to start with what you do professionally, if you're willing to share just a little bit about your professional life.
Well, I wear a few different hats. I run a watch company called the Abingdon Company, and we're based in Las Vegas. Been making watches for women who do more for the last 17 years. And then I also fly. I am a professional pilot. Right now, these days, I'm doing contract work, but I've flown everything from corporate to the airlines. And I think the biggest airplane I've flown is like a 747 or an Airbus A320. So if it's got wings and an engine, you could stick me in it. I could probably figure it out.
Wow, an Airbus? That's pretty hardcore. That is impressive. What got you into aviation? I mean, I learning a little bit about you, I think it started at a young age. Can we talk about that a little bit? What got you into it?
Well, I was in high school when I first heard about flying. So I didn't come from a family like a lot of aviators do, where their parents or grandparents had been in aviation. For me, I just heard about it at a career lunch that my career center at my high school was doing. And two pilots would walk in and they talked about what they did for a living. They talked about the jobs that were available. This was pre 9/11. So the aviation industry was completely different. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can get paid to travel. This sounds amazing. So I was 14 years old when I first heard about it. And I got bit by the bug, as they say.
Wow. So when you fly now, is that something that you do for a monetary thing, or is it more just about you just enjoy flying? I mean, how does that fit into your life?
It's definitely for my sanity, for sure. If I don't fly, then it feels like I'm not breathing right. So I try to fly as much as I possibly can, but I am running a full-time company now. So I can't, do both full-time jobs. My husband is a pilot for a major carrier, and sometimes I do wish that I went back to the airlines, because right now with the pilot shortage, it is insane how much money they are throwing at people to, operate autopilots and keep safe. Mind you, I know we should be evergreen, but with some of the situations that have been happening with doors popping off and engine cowlings popping off and things, pilots are working a lot harder than they used to. So I'm mostly flying for fun now.
Yeah. Without mentioning company names, I did want to ask you about that. What are your thoughts when you hear like doors popping off, and if you were the one flying that plane? I mean, what's your thought process on that? That must be does it scare you, or is it like statistically it doesn't happen that often?
Statistically, it doesn't happen that often. That's the first thing. But when you do have, nobody goes into a simulator for a Boeing or an Airbus and they have some maneuver where, okay, in this scenario, we're going to pop the door off and you're going to figure out what to do. That just does not exist. Engine failures, sure. Landing gear not coming down, sure. All that kind of thing, absolutely. Doors popping off, not so much. But One of the things that one of my instructors told me a long time ago, and it stuck with me even today, and I still kind of prescribe to this, is if you treat training like it's wartime, then when the war comes, it'll feel like training. So that's really applicable to just how hard we train as pilots. We want to just get through, sweat it out, and, work your butt off and everything in the simulator in a controlled environment where it's safe. And then when things do happen, then you just go right into muscle memory and you can just execute as you need. So that's kind of my approach to it.
That's interesting. So kind of like a battle tested type mentality in terms of approaching, things that could go wrong. I just can't even imagine, I don't fly too often, maybe once every few months, but I just can't even imagine being on a plane and like the door comes off. Like, I think from that point forward, it's like stuff that stays on the ground. I don't think I'd want to roll the dice again.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it happens once, when is it going to happen again? So
Fair.
kind of, all right, got that one checked off.
Fair. There's probably some truth to that. Hey, I want to start with something fun. You have a partnership with Alibaba, Alibaba.com, and it started from a simple act of gratitude. So I guess my first question would be, how did it start? What type of gratitude?
So I'm here in Las Vegas and have been here for almost 20 years. And one of the beautiful things about living in Las Vegas is all the conventions. So CES, the Consumer Electronics Showcase, had Alibaba there. I want to say this was probably back in like 2009, maybe. So I was just a couple years into my business, and I had found all my suppliers through Alibaba. I had looked up watch manufacturers in Switzerland and United States and everywhere under the sun that I could figure out, because I had no idea how to make a watch at the time. I was 22 and had this grandiose idea of starting a watch company. And I kept seeing the Alibaba website pop up as like, here's a place that you can find suppliers. Here's a place you can find manufacturers. And when you go to that site, I think what a lot of people don't realize is you could search any product in any country. So you've got the entire world of suppliers and manufacturers at your fingertips. So that's how I had found my suppliers. So I'm at CES. I'm just walking around because it's a fun show. It's just cool. I want to see what's going on technology wise. And I see Alibaba's their booth. And it was this huge, 60 by 60 footprint on the show floor, 60 feet. And I was like, oh, that's the website that I used to find my suppliers. I should thank them. And so I just went up to them. I found one of the ladies at one of the desks and I said, hey, I just wanted you to know that I really appreciate your platform. It helped me find my suppliers and it helped me start my business, which I've been running for a couple of years now. And I just think what you guys are doing is really cool. And that was it. There was, I didn't have any motive behind it other than to give recognition and gratitude. And so she was all excited about what I had just said and said, hey, would you mind if I just grabbed a quick camera and had you say that all over again? And I said, sure. So this was back in the day when like you don't just take up your phone and start recording. She went back and got like a little tiny digital camera and turn the knob, to click, click, click over to the video setting and then pressed go and said, okay, go ahead. And so I said the same thing again. And she asked for a business card and contact information. I gave it to her. And I think it was maybe about 2 months later, they contacted me and said, hey, we have been floating your video testimonial around to the entire company.
Wow.
Would you mind if we sent a film crew out to film your business in action? Because we're doing this whole Empowering Women series. And if you go to YouTube and you look up Alibaba Empowering Women, you'll see I was one of 3 companies that they feature that are female-run companies, one in North America, one in Europe, and one in Asia. And ever since then, I mean, that was back in like 2008, right around there, 2009, 2010. I've done multiple videos with them. I've spoken at every single one of their US-based events, their inaugural Gateway in Detroit, and then just last year here in Vegas at their Co-Create event. And they've even had me fly out and be a keynote speaker at their awards in China. So it's been a beautiful friendship between our 2 businesses. I still use the platform today if I'm looking for new suppliers or new products. And honestly, I think it's one of the most it should be one of the most recognized platforms for businesses because it's fantastic.
Does cash flow have you down? Profit not where you think it should be? Maybe it's the long hours. Let's meet to see if I can help. I bridge driving the financial performance of your business to hit growth and success targets. Book a complimentary meeting at meetforgrowth.com to get started now. Once again, that's meetforgrowth.com. I look forward to talking with you. And thanks for listening to the show.
I think it should be one of the most recognized platforms for businesses because it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's interesting. I always thought Alibaba was mostly Chinese suppliers. I didn't realize it was actually worldwide. That's fascinating. So, what's your thoughts around just networking in general? Because it's interesting how this relationship evolved. You went in with a totally pure mindset. You were just thanking them for having a relationship with them, and it evolved in this great you know reciprocal type relationship. What's your thoughts around, especially when it comes to just for other business owners, about building those type of networking relationships? Is there any wisdom, nuggets of wisdom you can share?
Get out there as much as you possibly can. Maintain your sanity, but be seen. Even if you go to an event and you don't have anything to necessarily contribute, you want to always, myself as a business owner, I want to provide value, right? And so even if I walk into a room, I want to be able to add something to that room. But oftentimes I go into rooms that I'm not quite sure where I might add value. I wasn't looking at adding value going up to Alibaba at CES. I just was giving thanks. But if you as a business owner you will find so many opportunities that land on your doorstep if you're just in the room. And if you can add value, great. If you can't, just be there and see what happens. It's so important to be seen, and it's not always as important to be heard as long as you are at the forethought of everybody's mind. So depending on, for my business, it's watches, right? And if you in the next month, it's Valentine's Day or Mother's Day or a birthday or Christmas, and you're thinking, oh man, I need to get a really good gift for somebody. What should I get? And you just had seen me at some event, or you heard me on your podcast, or you were, it came across me somewhere, then being seen is going to remind you, oh yeah, she makes watches. That would be a good gift. And if you're in business, you have got to be in front of everybody's mind as much as you possibly can. So just keep getting out there, knock on as many doors as you possibly can.
Do you think the fact that you really didn't want anything in that discussion was part of what gave that kind of wheels? I mean, do you think that changes in a networking relationship, or do you think it's okay? You had mentioned like kind of adding value. Do you think it's okay going in, like going, hey, this is where I think I can add value, and then building on it from there? Or is it better to just go in with an open mind and whatever happens, happens? What's your thoughts?
Depends on the circumstance, right?
Yeah.
So, here I was at one of the largest trade shows in the world, talking to one of the biggest companies in the world.
Right.
So me going up with this idea of, I'm going to add value to you, that might be a little heavy, right? So it was pure. But there are some places, I'm part of a lot of the women's business groups here in Las Vegas, where I get often asked to speak and to provide some insight or some knowledge on things that I've done over the years in business. And I try to add as much value as I possibly can to those groups. Much as when I listen to somebody else speak, I try to get as much value from what they're speaking about. So I think it's really circumstantial. What room are you in? Where are you able to add value if you can? And if you can't, it's not like that means you shouldn't be there, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Shifting gears here. So you had close to 70% growth from 2022 to 2023. What do you attribute to that growth, and what's your market strategy? Just on a very top level, I'd be curious, where are you focusing your efforts at?
So really what we did for 2023 was we focused on retailers. I've always been a direct to consumer, primarily brand. And the way we've always done our sales in the previous 15 years has been either through the website, through social media ads, and through trade shows. Of course, post 2020-21, when all the shows kind of went by the wayside, I really shifted heavily on digital marketing. And now that shows are back and events are back, a watch is a very personal item that people want to feel the weight of. They want to see what it looks like on their wrist, choosing colors and things like that. So it's not so much you want to buy online all the time. You're constantly looking at reviews and videos and just all those things if you're going to buy something like a watch online, because it's a very personal item. So we always found a lot of success having the trade show circuit that we did. But it really made us change our tune once COVID had happened. And we thought, okay, well, how do we get in front of people, but not necessarily have that high cost, high intensive workload of doing a 2-day to 8-day trade show? And so retailers would be the number one thing. So we're in Macy's, we're in Neiman Marcus, we're with all the military exchanges, Army, Air Force, Marines, and Navy. And that was where we shined in 2023. I just put all of our focus on establishing a really strong retailer network and being very, very conscious with who we reached out to. And we were starting to get calls from retailers just wanting to carry our brand, which was amazing. So like the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum in DC had just called us and said, hey, we'd like to carry your stuff in our gift shop. We just did this huge remodel. So our retailer network, I would say, it's incredible. You can work very hard to do every single sale, or you can empower others like a network of retailers to sell for you. And you're going to grow very well if you do it that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Who's your ideal customer? Like, is this a functional type watch? Is it an accessory in terms of something, as a status symbol? Like I know some watches have. Where do you feel like you fall in as far as your watch is concerned?
So I would consider us functional accessory. Every watch that we offer, it has at least 4 other things that it'll do other than tell time. So maybe it has a world timer, it has a flight computer, it has Greenwich Mean Time or a third time zone. It'll all have date. Some of them even have rulers going down the back side of the bands and the back side of the case back. But our ideal avatar, our customer avatar, right, is going to be women who want something that is going to hold up. So they are typically harder on their products. They typically are working in some type of like STEAM industry, science, tech, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Because when I started this company, I started it as the first pilot's watch for women. And because I was a pilot and I wanted one, right? But it turns out that women who fly airplanes, they also do a lot of scuba diving, or they ride motorcycles, or they're just a very outdoorsy kind of go-getter women. And so I started getting requests. Hey, would you make something I can take on my dive trips? Would you make something that I can go snorkel around with or surf with? And I was like, okay, yeah, the pilot watches have water resistance, but let's start getting into dive watches now and have something that's still beautiful that you could wear at work in your uniform, but also be able to take a beating. And so I would say, because our price point is not very high at all. Everything is under 1,000, which in the watch world, that's actually considered cheap, right? But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build quality into a product that people can be proud to wear without, thinking like, oh, this is a status symbol. I mean, a lot of people, when we say our customers, we call them the crew. And if you're a crew member, and you see somebody, we had this actually happen. It's in a customer review somewhere on our website. A woman went to a job interview at a major airline and she was wearing an Abingdon watch. The chief pilot who was giving the opening speech to the room of candidates, there was probably about 50 or 60 in there. And of course, she's one of like 2 women in there. And the chief pilot was a female as well. The chief pilot interrupted her own speech to open up the interview day and said, "Is that an Abingdon watch?" And the applicant she was sitting in the front row. She was like, "Yes." And she's like, "I've got the same watch." So there is this, and they both held up their wrists. And at the break, the chief pilot came over and started chatting with her. Now, she has given Abingdon watches credit for her getting that job. I don't think that was what made it. I'm sure that she interviewed fantastic, but what a great way to just connect with somebody. Blew my mind. It was amazing.
Yeah. It's always funny how those little things where there's some bond can, lead into some type of connection and relationship. It's just the smallest thing. It's crazy. That's cool. That's a great story. I love that. another thing about your company, you're in, I believe, at least at the time of my research, 20 different countries, which is kind of mind boggling when you think about, currency, marketing. How do you manage all those different, particularly marketing, different messaging, probably? How do you handle that with all those different countries?
My best marketers are the crew. So customers who have made it onto magazine covers or they're interviewed and they're on television and because of the type of customer that wears this watch, they're often in the news because they're breaking records and they're doing things that are newsworthy. And when they're wearing an Abingdon watch, it gets visibility and people are asking, well, what is that they're wearing? And so that's where we get a lot of our presence internationally. We also have a nonprofit side of the company, the Abingdon Foundation, which does provide scholarships to bring women into the United States and take them to a leading industry conference for like a industry that they want to get into, maybe aviation, maybe technology, possibly like biology or the sciences, things like that. So that scholarship is open up internationally as well. So we do get a lot of coverage just from the foundation and what we're doing to bring people in. And even our last winner is from Ghana. So we had to arrange visas. We have to arrange airfare and everything to bring her in. But we've had winners from Ireland, Dominican Republic, Mexico, Europe, Africa. I think we've almost, except for Asia, we haven't had a winner yet from Asia. We haven't had many applicants from Asia win our scholarship. So I think the combination of the foundation and then just who our crew is makes for a very international presence. And when you really get down to human nature, women who are just go-getters and strong personalities and just the type of women who wear these watches, that's a universal trait across many countries. So our brand messaging really, it resonates no matter where you are.
If you're a business owner feeling stuck in your business, overwhelmed, responsible for everything that happens, and working long hours, Tyler helps his clients develop processes, hire high-performing team members, and better understand their financial metrics and numbers to allow for a more predictable, less hands-on business. To schedule a free, no-pressure consultation, head to thinktyler.com and click the meeting button. Tyler would love to see if he can help you work on your business, not in your business. Schedule a consultation today at thinktyler.com. Think life, think success, think business.
Our brand messaging really, it resonates no matter where you are.
That's cool. I mean, all those countries, you generally think of like larger companies that have the facilities and the means to be able to deal on a worldwide level. It's cool that as a smaller company, you're able to do that, and your messaging works through your crew. I mean, that's even super cool. They like kind of carry your messaging by being in publications and various types of media outlets. It sounds like.
Definitely.
So cool.
It does help big too, like in aviation, diving, military, these industries have a very international presence.
Yeah.
So we're shipping to APOs a lot and they're based all over the world. So it is pretty neat.
Yeah, what a cool niche. As an entrepreneur, letting go of things can be really tough and it can be challenging. And I'd love to know if there's a time where you had to let go of something or delegate, and that's kind of helped you define yourself as a leader. Anything stand out?
Oh, that's a good question.
Usually like 1 out of 50, I usually come up with one good question.
Oh, and here's our cameo.
There's
right?
Sinatra. I know you guys can't see it, but Sinatra is a cat. It is the most beautiful cat on the video right now. And I love the name. I just wanted to say the name.
So let's see. Tell me the question again, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to like delegating, this is a common thing, letting go, delegating, whatever you want to call it. A lot of times as business owners, that's hard to do. And so I'm just curious if there's a point where you had a challenging time in terms of you had to delegate or let go, or as you've grown, you've had to do that, and kind of has defined your leadership style or helped you grow as a leader.
Yeah. Well, if you're starting a business, especially oftentimes with a first time entrepreneur, you really do wear all the hats, right? You're your IT department and your customer service and your product fulfillment if it's a product. And if you're doing a service base, then you're doing all the service, right? So you're in charge of every aspect, and it can bog you down. I remember a horrible day when I had a customer. I think what had happened was I had shipped out the products. I was operating out of a warehouse or like not even a warehouse, a storage unit. And I had crossed the shipping labels and I shipped two people the wrong watch. One person got the other person's and it just got swapped. And one of the guys that had ordered had ordered one for a gift, like a birthday present or something. So there was a bit of a deadline on it. It was completely my mistake. And they called and I mean, he just yelled at me, and every right to. And here I am in my car taking a customer service call. And I'm just thinking, wow, I really screwed that up. And I now potentially ruined a big day. And it was that point that I was like, I have got to get somebody to take on some of these tasks for me. And it took some time. I feel bad for the early people that I had hired because I didn't know how to delegate properly where you're not micromanaging or you're not making them do it the way that you did it, because you did it in a particular way, but everybody has different personalities. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses that are different than your own. So it took a few employees, unfortunately. I mean, it's not something fun to admit, but it took a few employees for me to learn how to be a person that can delegate. But it was pivotal to the business. I mean, right now, my retail account manager, there is no way that we would have had the success that we had last year had I not had somebody 100% dealing with all of the retailers. And so it was pivotal. It's a growth step. It's like when you go through shin splints as a teenager and you get one of those growth spurts and you're just like, this hurts, but it's necessary.
I think we've all been there. I appreciate your candor in terms of sharing your first few employees, but I'll tell you, I think we've all been there where we've had a couple staff slip away and go, wow, it's not them, it's me.
And if we don't, I mean, we did not not many of us as entrepreneurs were born with the talent of managing people well right off the bat. It takes practice, just like it took practice starting and running your company, yourself.
So true. So you were on Shark Tank or pitching to Shark Tank, and I don't really know. Through my research, I don't really know the end result other than I don't think it worked out. What did you take away from that? I'd love to hear the story. And then, did you learn something then in terms of pivoting your business and just the thoughts around pivoting from that encounter?
It definitely worked out because I'm still in business and it made me shift my whole company, right? When I got onto Shark Tank, I had tried for 4 years and I finally got through. They selected me. I worked with the producers to create the pitch, which everybody does that. They work for about 8 weeks with the producers of the show to craft that whole pitch that they give at the very beginning. And because they want to make it entertaining. I mean,
Right.
let's all start with saying this is not a real pitch. I mean, and they may give you money or they may not, but it really is a show first before it's an investor pitch. So they have to make it entertaining. That's the first thing. But for me, I was only still working on pilot's watches. I had not started doing the dive watches, the military watches, and I can't go on to Shark Tank and say, yeah, I make pilot watches. You should invest in my business. And they'll ask me, okay, well, what's your market size? And I'd say, women make up 6% of the aviation industry. This is a great idea. That's less than 50,000 people at the time. So not what you want to say on Shark Tank. You're going to look like an idiot. So I was like, okay, how do I make it look like I've seen the success that I've seen? Because I was on in 2014. So I was about 7 years in business. And now I want to take it to the next level. So what is the next level, right? And I've been asking crew members, and crew crew members had voluntarily told me, hey, we want to see more options that you have. So my entire pitch to Shark Tank was, this is where I've had success. We've done $500,000 in sales or whatever we've done at that point. And then this is where I want to take it, because the market of women, we're at 30 million in the US alone. The number of women in the military, we're at X million. The number of women in the automotive space, we're at this million, and if, even though they're all minorities in their respective industries, if you take each one of those little slices of each of those pies, you make a pretty big pie. So that was my pitch. And that's how I presented it to them. I did not get a deal from any of the sharks. Mark Cuban and Robert Herjavec said we would, except that we're not your kind of investor. We don't know anything about the wash space, anything about consumer product goods. We're technology, we're software, we're, that type of stuff. So, but keep going because you're doing it right. So at the end of the day, even though I didn't get a deal, I think what was the best part of that whole experience was how I grew the company after that point, because I realized, oh my gosh, I cannot keep on going down the aviation road because it's too small of a market. Right. I need to expand to all these other industries that women are also a minority in, and they're also settling for other products that weren't designed or built for them. And that was the whole premise behind why I built a pilot's watch for women, because we were settling for men's styles or for no style. And it just wasn't working, So creating that pilot's watch with the answer for all those women in aviation, and then creating dive watches and tactical watches and automotive watches and the different products and industries that we go after now the women are saying, oh my gosh, you finally made something for us. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Here you go. So it, in the end, was a great, great experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a cool experience. I didn't realize 8 weeks that you're working over that pitch. I mean, I'm sure I knew that, there was time spent making it interesting and to go along with the music and everything else. But wow, 8 weeks, it sounds like you put your heart and soul into that.
And it's on the producers. I mean, I give credit to the producers of the show. We had weekly calls, and we had a lot of correspondence over email, like, maybe change this in your script, maybe put this here or add this here, or what are you going to wear when you step out? What's your set going to look like? I mean, you can't just kind of roll in, the day before, so to speak.
Do you do a dry run or maybe multiple dry runs in studio before the sharks are there? No?
Oh, no. Wow. You do dry runs over like video, and you paint it and everything, but no, it is true reality TV when you walk down that hall and you stand in front of the sharks. That's the first time they've seen you. That's the first time you've been there. And it's kind of unnerving because you have to go out to that one spot and stop. And then you have to hold for about 1 minute to 2 minutes until they say, okay, go. And the reason they're doing that is if you've seen the dramatic entrance, right, where it's like so-and-so is coming out and she's from blah, 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 and you see the cameras kind of rolling around the sharks looking at the individual, and then you see the individual kind of looking out at the sharks. All of that being filmed it takes about 1 to 2 minutes. So you just stand there. You just stand there and look at them, and they look at you. It's weird.
That must be kind of a little weird. Did you, in that experience, did you know in your mind, like, hey, if they offer me $1 million for 50%, even if that's not fair valuation, did you have a certain number in your head where you would go, I'll take it just because I'm getting them involved? Or where did you stand? Like, did you already have something preconceived in your mind?
If Damon John had offered something just totally out of left field, I probably would have taken it just because of the connections that he has with fashion and the space that I was in. And then I would have said probably Lori would have been the next one that I would have been, okay, we could get away with that. Anybody else though, had they offered something just kind of crazy, I probably would have thought twice. But those two, I knew they knew how to work with consumer product goods. And then especially with Damon with his fashion side, I could have gotten to a lot of doors very quickly.
Yeah. What a cool experience though. Kudos to you for going through it. I mean, that takes a lot of nerve and a lot of preparation. And I'm not sure. I'd probably choke. It'd be fun, but I'd probably choke. So what a cool experience. Where do you see, just talking about aviation and women in employment, do you see more women entering as pilots in the aviation space? Is it growing, or
I
where's it
do.
at these days? Really? Okay.
It's not growing as fast as I'd like it to grow, but it is definitely growing. And there's a lot of programs that are out there now that help cover the cost of training and guarantee you jobs. So United Airlines has this program called Aviate. Some of the other airlines, Delta has a program called Propel. And what they're doing is they're taking young people, even out of high school, and after a certain aptitude test or certain things that qualify the applicant, they will cover their training and then put them into the right seat of one of their planes. And it's a great program because what they're doing is they are essentially instilling all the good habits of being an airline pilot. So a lot of times when we learn how to fly, we could go to some mom and pop, little airport in our town, and maybe you kind of get some bad habits from an instructor who's just been an instructor too long or doesn't quite keep up with the rules and regs. But when you're training under an airline environment or a professional company, then from day one, you have nothing but good habits. So I love that I'm seeing a lot of these programs. They've never had these types of programs when I was doing my flight training, but nowadays it almost seems like all the major carriers have something to help bring in more pilots. And then honestly, social media, how many people, follow some pretty female pilot on Instagram or something like that. And they see the lifestyle and they see, what they're doing for a job. And I think it's great because it not only shows you these women are very smart. If they're flying around a jet, a Boeing, an Airbus, even a CRJ or one of the smallers, or even a corporate jet, you cannot just kind of float through life and get into a captain's spot or even a first officer's position at one of these jets. So to see these smart women living this lifestyle of just traveling around and what it is to be a pilot, I think it's fantastic. And it's not just showing other young girls or young women that they too can follow those footsteps, but it's also showing the men and the boys that women are flying. So on all sides, I think it's a positive thing. I really look forward to seeing that 6% that I started in the industry with raising to double digits, hopefully within my lifetime. I think right now we're at about 7.5%. So it's moving up. It's going slow.
Yeah, slow. Yeah, I mean, it's being a pilot has such a prestigious tone to it. It's cool to see women in that space. They should be in that space. So it's nice that you're a pioneer for that and you're kind of pushing for it. And it's true. I mean, there has to be programs or things that I think kind of bridge that gap to help people believe that they can get there. And hopefully there's more equality in that space. That's really cool. Hey, I got one last question before I wrap up. What do you have? What's in store for your business? Like, what do you see in the future? What's on the horizon? Where are things going?
So this year's focus is going to be, again, retailers. We're going to keep expanding on that. But you're going to see a huge presence on social media. We're starting to work with influencers. We're starting to get into more eyes as opposed to more doors, if that makes sense. So follow us on, like, we just started a TikTok account, YouTube, subscribe, Instagram. Yes, we're on. Pretty pictures will always be a thing for a watch company. Absolutely. But my favorite part about how we're doing this, because with a product based company, a lot of times all you see is the product and the sale. But that's not, it's a picture on Instagram of a beautiful product. Hey, buy this product. Hey, we got a Valentine's Day sale. Hey, this, hey, that. And you can't do that on social media because it doesn't feel genuine. So what we're doing instead is we're telling stories about the crew. And we've got thousands of customers all around the world. So there are thousands of stories to tell. And if you want to see what it's like or what the women, and even men, we do have men as well that wear these watches. We market specifically to women because they're left out of the conversation when it comes to watches. But we have a lot of guys who wear these watches as well because it's a good looking watch. And we love telling their stories. So you'll see it on the website, you'll see it on social media. This year, we're just going to be so much more kind of like interacting with people with just social media. We're going to be social, really, really social. So that's the big change that you'll see for the Abingdon company this year.
Does cash flow have you down? Profit not where you think it should be? Maybe it's the long hours. Let's meet to see if I can help. I bridge driving the financial performance of your business to hit growth and success targets. Book a complimentary meeting at meetforgrowth.com to get started now. Once again, that's meetforgrowth.com. I look forward to talking with you. And thanks for listening to the show.
Social media is we're going to be social, really, really social. So that's the big change that you'll see for the Abingdon company this year.
So if listeners wanted to reach out to you, check out your stuff, where would you like them to go? Do you know any of your handles? I'll, of course, put these in the show notes, but where would you like them to go?
So Abingdon Co. is pretty much our handle on everything except Instagram for some reason. They think that there's another account out there called that. So it's the Abingdon Co. on Instagram, but everywhere else, it's Abingdon Co. The website, like I said, TikTok, YouTube. We do really good videos on YouTube about just how to take care of a watch, but then also we do fun things like flying airplanes and riding motorcycles and going scuba diving and all sorts of things. So definitely subscribe to that. And then Facebook, we're pretty active on. Instagram, we're definitely active on, and even Pinterest. So, I mean, you just type it into Google, you're going to find us in 20 different places. And then when you've got one of our retailers, or, it's you're in the military, if you're in the Air Force or Army or anything, then check us out in the exchanges and talk to some of our customers. The nice thing too about our crew is they're very vocal. Like we didn't have a presence one year at a trade show once that we normally were at, and but they had just sold out by the time we got there. And what I did was I posted on Facebook and said, "Hey, is there anybody going to this event? I have a few people who want to check out the watches. Would you mind if I had them meet you?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure. I'll be over at this place here. I'll be here. Have them meet me here. I have no problem. I'll bring more of my watches," because we've got a 43% repeat customer rate. So they were selling them for us. And it was incredible just what the community is that wears these. So.
Wow, that's a great story. It's been great having you as guest. Between the aviation, Shark Tank, Alibaba, your watches. I mean, you got such a cool story that it doesn't surprise me to see your product kind of sell itself, and your crew basically being the story behind your product that sells it so well. It just doesn't, no surprising at all. So thank you for being here. I hope maybe someday in the future you'll come visit again. It was great to get to know you.
I would love to. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
That's all for this episode of Think Business with Tyler. But we have plenty more resources to help you in your pursuit of business excellence on our website at thinktyler.com. If you'd like to be featured in a future episode of the show, feel free to reach out to us on social media at think_Tyler. We look forward to helping you think life, think success, and think business.
Are you passionate about saving the planet for future generations? Do you want to learn how to do it? If yes, then you need to tune in to the Nature Backed podcast. It's a talk show covering the changing world around us, from renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, circular economy, to ESG and social innovation. Don't miss this opportunity to discover how you can join the movement and make a difference. Subscribe to the Nature Backed podcast today on your favorite platform and get ready to be amazed.
Hi, I'm Lessa Gadet, host of her Extraordinary Life by Design podcast, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I speak with women from all over the world about what they do and how they are passionately pursuing their dreams and creating meaningful impacts on their communities. So come join us and learn about all there is to learn about these extraordinary women.
Electricast.